Experts are calling a proposed pipeline project in Memphis, Tennessee, environmental racism. They say predominantly black neighborhoods are being targeted for the construction of a 49-mile underground crude oil pipeline. They're worried it may devalue land and contaminate the city's drinking water. Former Vice President Al Gore recently went to Memphis to support protesters. The pipeline company says they've held forums with community members to try and address their concerns. We spoke to advocates on both sides of this intensifying fight. This green acre of land in southwest Memphis, Clyde Robinson calls his legacy. It's been in his family since the 1930s.
This land means a whole lot to me.
The 80-year-old is among several Memphis landowners fighting to keep a crude oil pipeline from cutting through their property. He and others, like Scotty Fitzgerald, say they're being robbed of their land and livelihood.
This, to me, it is hurtful. I am offended.
The two energy companies overseeing the project plan to build a pipeline about 4 feet underground. It would stretch 49 miles in order to connect two existing pipelines transporting crude oil to the Gulf Coast. The company, Plains All American, says the Byhalia pipeline is a safe, responsible way to meet the energy needs of our country. And they say they're paying above market price to homeowners for access to their land.
No more oil in our soul.
But environmental activists and many locals say the pipeline companies are pressuring mostly black property owners to build through their land, while also putting Memphis's pristine drinking water at risk of contamination.
We are facing one of the most significant environmental justice and environmentally racist projects in the country's present and history in Memphis, Tennessee.
Justin Pearson co-founded Memphis Community Against the Pipeline.
Memphis is the largest municipality in the country to solely rely on groundwater for its drinking water. This pipeline is being built in an area where there are known breaches in the clay layer. And so there are holes where this contamination would more quickly get to our drinking water source than other places in the city or other places where they may operate pipelines. It is not true that this is safe.
We picked the route with the fewest amount of impacts.
Plains All-American spokeswoman Katie Martin says 97% of landowners have agreed to their project. And she says Plains All-American has talked to researchers and done environmental studies that show the pipeline will not harm Memphis's drinking water, some of the cleanest in the nation, which comes from below ground.
Do you understand people's concerns that they want to be able to protect their land, that they are worried about environmental issues with this pipeline, and that a majority black neighborhood is being targeted here?
I've listened, and our company has listened and tried to hear everyone's concerns. We've routed this in the most responsible way possible. We avoided environmental issues, we avoided landmarks, we avoided densely populated neighborhoods, and we really chose this path because we were able to use the vacant lots. It wasn't because we were targeting one group of people over another.
Plains All-American has offered to pay landowners for easements to access their land to construct the pipeline. Robinson says he was offered $8,000. Fitzgerald says she was offered $3,000. They both refused, and now the pipeline's lawyers have taken them to court.
So eminent domain is used as an absolute last resort. We are still trying to negotiate with every landowner and trying to come to a mutually beneficial agreement with them.
Robinson and Fitzgerald disagree. They say no amount of money will persuade them to allow the pipeline to cut through their land. How do you feel about how far this has gone?
I feel like you took something from me that was a legacy on down to I have grandchildren. How could you do that? I wouldn't even think of doing another human being like that.
The construction of the pipeline is still in limbo, but once it begins, if it does, it'll take about 9 months. Activists are hoping the Biden administration intervenes since it did stop the Keystone Pipeline project. This is really tough. They're calling it environmental racism because this majority black low-income neighborhood is being targeted, and the people who live there, the ones who oppose this, say, you know, this company thinks we don't have the resources to fight this, but they say they're being underestimated, that they will fight it. The company says that they have the environment and these families top of mind, that that's the reason they chose this route, because it affects the least number of people, it affects the environment the least. But for those who live there, That's 100% of their land.
Yeah. Also, when you hear them say, oh, you know, there are abandoned lots there, so that's why the company wants to go through, well, you have to ask yourself, why are there abandoned lots there? I mean, is there a history of lack of investment in that community? It's not a coincidence often that that's a black community in the first place.
But also, you know, this country needs its crude oil. It needs energy to survive and to continue. That's what the company is saying. But this group doesn't want it going through their land.
Got to draw the line somewhere.
They made that very clear.
Yeah, they made it clear.